I grew up thinking you better make a lot of money to farm. And I like the fact that we can farm and we don't have to be rich. You do have to have partnerships. That's one of the factors that's allowing us to farm, is that we're getting paid a fair price for the product and we can afford to do business in a way that feels good. I am Christine Deck. I'm one of the co-owners and operators of Deck Family Farm.
And I'm John Deck, and I'm Christine's spouse. We've been here for 17 years on the farm. We raise pigs, cows, lamb, turkeys, dairy, and eggs.
I come from a long line of farmers, as far back as I know, so we always wanted to farm.
My grandparents were farmers, and they sold their farms just as I was born and very young. So I feel like that was kind of a legacy that I missed out on, part of what the family was doing.
When I graduated college, which I did after the 5 kids, and John was able to work remotely, we came to Oregon, and we bought this property.
When we moved out here, it was kind of like actualizing a dream to be able to, this was it. This is what we wanted to do. There's forest, there's hills, there's some meadows, there's floodplains, so there's a lot of different terrain on the farm. And we just started adding animals as we went. When we started, it was 40 beef cows, and then I think we went into a flock of 50 layers. We raised some broilers. We processed the broilers with our kids. For the first 5 or 10 years was all just Christine and I and our 5 kids working together. We didn't start breeding pigs until about 10 years ago.
And I said, no, pigs stink. Because I grew up raising pigs. I used to have to ride the school bus in my pig clothes. It was embarrassing. But that was in confinement, like in the 70s and 80s in San Joaquin Valley, that's why you did it. But here, the pigs on pasture, they don't stink. There's no odor like in big confinement operations.
And then we also raised pigs as well when we went to UC Davis. We lived on a farm there.
Oinker, poinker, and doinker.
Yes. So we had a little bit of experience when we started. I have a background in environmental planning and landscape architecture. So when we started farming, I think that I kind of knew instinctively that we wanted to engage in a style of farming that worked with nature and that was in some way all about nutrient cycling and building soil fertility. So we've been measuring our soil organic matter over the last 15 years, and it's raised consistently across the farm. I feel like just in the last several years, I'm really getting a much better sense for our soil and our land, and every field we have responds just a little bit differently. One field might be 6 inches lower than another field and just retain water for a little bit longer through the year, and that determines what type of plants grow in the field. And it also determines the nutrient holding capacity of the soils. And so when we apply manures onto the field, or we graze animals, or we do particular practices there, some fields will respond more quickly and I'll see a boost in growth, and other fields might not respond as quickly.
We want to have efficiency for sure. We want to have economy of scale. We want to pay our bills and pay our people. But we also want to be mindful of just how efficient we get. We don't want to treat the animals like they're units of production. They're not. They're sentient beings and they deserve to be treated with respect.
We started working with Whole Foods, I believe it was in 2015. Whole Foods was planning on opening a store in the Eugene area. At the time, they set up a meet and greet at a local hotel, and we brought some products to their meat buyer, and that's when we started a conversation, and it took us a couple years to be able to even send in our first pigs, and then our first pigs arrived in Whole Foods in 2017. At the time, 100% of our sales was bringing pigs to a USDA slaughter plant, having them package them into cut meats, and us selling them at farmers markets or into small grocery stores. So the concept of being able to deliver whole animals to a processor and then delivering primals to a grocery outlet and having them be distributed was revolutionary for us, because we could focus more on raising pigs and expanding our practices rather than exclusively on all of the other distributional aspects, which is complicated and hard.
do you guys have now altogether?
Well, we're finishing 500 a year, so probably about 300 on the ground at any one time. So in the summer, it's easy because they're out everywhere, the forests, the berries, the pastures. In order to sell to Whole Foods, you have to be some level of GAP certified. So before our first animals went in, we got GAP certified, and we're proud that we're 4 out of 5. 4 is great. Means they're on pasture for most of the year, weather permitting. A GAP inspector comes to the farm and reviews records and observes, just looks at all the animals and checks everything out.
What I love about farming is that we have an impact on so many people's lives. But more importantly, we've developed really close relationships with other farmers in the area, people we might not otherwise have talked to, and we rely on other people in the community, so really have become an integral part into our community. The list goes on for the number of different people we interact with and the number of different communities and lives that we touch in what we do. And then there's also an interaction ecologically, that we're on the land and, whether it's raining or not raining, or whether it's cold or whether it's hot, these are all things that impact us. And so we really notice everything that's happening around us. So I really appreciate that we're kind of like reliant on natural cycles and reliant on nature for our livelihood, and it makes it more important for us, and there's a lot more meaning in these things.